Hello. I love Super Nintendo. I eat, sleep and live everything SNES. I love Super Nintendo. Now, recently we've looked at some pretty lame games when it comes to Super Nintendo, and I'd hate for people to get the opinion that that's all there was on the SNES. So what I've decided to do is kick back a little bit and look at a game that is pretty awesome on the Super Nintendo and really gives the Super Nintendo a good game when it comes to this game. And we are looking today at The Lost Vikings. The Lost Vikings is ideally an action platforming and puzzle game. You take control of 3 Vikings who are abducted from their homeland one day by a spaceship and have to try and get back home. The gameplay was original for its time. Each of the 3 Vikings has unique abilities, and the player can switch between which Viking to control at any time. You will need to use the varied style of each Viking throughout the game to reach the end. If one Viking dies, then you can carry on playing the game with the other 2, but in all honesty, it seems pointless as you will unavoidably come up against an obstacle that requires your dead comrade at some point soon after. Firstly, it needs to be said, Vikings are cool. I mean, who else can make raping and pillaging sound fun? Erroneous headgear aside, Vikings rock. Now, granted they probably couldn't take ninjas in a fight, but at least if Vikings lost, on their way home they would burn down every single village they came across just because they were that angry. Awesome. Now, back to the actual game. The cartoony graphics of the game should tell you straight away that this is not one to be taken too seriously. And this can really lull you into a false sense of security. After all, aren't cartoony games for kids? Well, no. This game is pretty tough. The first few levels are not too bad and require more thought than actual skill, but the later levels test you. Awesome. Another great thing about The Lost Vikings is that each of the 3 characters are genuinely different. This isn't a Mario and Green and White situation here. Oh no. First up is Eric the Swift, who is the only Viking who can jump. Swifty can also use his head to ram breakable walls as well as attacking enemies. Next is Balrog the Fierce, who is the only Viking with an actual attack. He can fire arrows from a bow as well as swing that nifty sword of his. Finally is Olaf the Stout, who wields a shield which can be used to defend from attack as well as used as a parachute to float safely from ledges. Olaf can also hold his shield above his head, allowing Eric to jump to higher platforms. Switching between these characters is entirely at the discretion of the player, and a quick tap of L or R will switch between any characters who are still alive. Which brings us on to the next awesome thing of this game. The controls are so easy. As already said, L and R control which Viking you want to control, allows you to switch between the characters. B and Y are used for the unique abilities of each character. X is used to use any item or object that you've got in your inventory, and that's pretty much all you need to know. The only thing that I find a little bit annoying about the controls is that select opens up your inventory and you then have to use the D-pad to move around to select which object you want chosen for each of the Vikings. If that's the biggest problem you've got with the controls in a game, then that game is doing pretty well on the controls department. Overall controls, awesome. The levels are short and sweet, but somehow this game can still get stale quite quickly. The gameplay is very samey across each of the levels, and after you've had to stop 20 times just to bring Olaf up to parachute down a hole, you start to get a bit of a brain ache. The other thing is more a personal gripe than an actual problem with the game, but Vikings are awesome. So how come only one of the three has an actual attack? They're Vikings! I can't imagine that raping and pillaging entire villages required much jumping over buildings. So what happened to Eric? Did he just stay at home? Hey, Eric, we're going out to rape and pillage. Want to come with? Ooh, I love raping and pillaging. Any tall trees that'll need jumping over? Oh, probably not. Oh, I think I'll miss this one out. Okay, so The Lost Vikings is a little samey. However, it's not the kind of game that's supposed to be completed in one sitting. The password system is really, really short and sweet, so you probably get more enjoyment out of playing it over a number of times than you will trying to beat the entire game in one go. Personally, I love the game. I think it's great. It's lots of fun. There's a real sense of achievement you get from beating a level for the first time. Now, The Lost Vikings was one of the first games to combine puzzle, action and platforming, and it does it really well. Although it's not perfect, it definitely gives us a really good idea of what a good game in those three genres can be. And besides, it's more fun than Prince of Persia. Now, with The Lost Vikings being such a huge success on the Super Nintendo, it came as no surprise to anybody when a sequel was announced, The Lost Vikings 2. We're going to be having a good look at this one next time, so make sure you check back to find out exactly what has happened to Eric, Balrog and Olaf. But that's to come.
We're tearing up this place tonight. We're gonna set this sleepy town alight. We'll kill and steal and burn and drink, 'cause us Vikings don't care what you think.